We are living through an epidemic of broken brains. Everyone you know, including yourself, likely feels as though their attention span has been shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. We sit down to do deep, important work, and within 47 seconds we are twitching for a distraction. And society has universally agreed upon the culprit. We blame the algorithms. We blame TikTok, Instagram, and the endless buzzing casino in our pockets. We diagnose ourselves with adult-onset ADHD, our solution. We download app blockers. We turn our screens to grayscale. We engage in desperate digital detoxes, hoping to meditate our way out of a cognitive collapse. But treating a shattered attention span with an app blocker is the height of absurdity. It is the equivalent of trying to fix a blown engine by changing the radio station. Yes, the software is engineered to addict us. But behavioral inputs are only half the equation. We are entirely ignoring the hardware. We are ignoring the biochemical reality of what we are physically feeding our brains. The uncomfortable truth is that our modern diet, specifically the industrial infiltration of fructose and seed oils, has fundamentally sabotaged our metabolic engines. We are actively destroying our cognitive hardware, leaving our minds uniquely vulnerable to the digital predators waiting in our pockets. Let us briefly give the tech billionaires their due. The digital world is not an accident. It is a meticulously engineered psychological trap. The architects of the attention economy simply took the operant conditioning chamber, the Skinner box, invented in the 20th century to control the behavior of rats, and digitized it. They weaponized a neurochemical called dopamine. Dopamine is not simply the chemical of pleasure. It is the chemical of anticipation, of wanting, of pure motivation. When you introduce a variable reward schedule, meaning you never know quite when the next like, match, or email will arrive, dopamine production spikes. You become the rat in the cage, pressing the lever compulsively, trading your limited time on Earth for a digital currency that eats away at your ability to focus. But here is the critical question. Why is our generation so utterly powerless to resist it? 50 years ago, human beings possessed the same basic neural architecture. If you handed a smartphone to someone in 1970, they would undoubtedly be distracted. But their brains were not preconditioned for total collapse. The difference is our biochemical baseline. When your brain is subjected to a constant, overwhelming flood of stimulation, it attempts to protect itself by building up a highly stable protein called delta phos-B. Delta phos-B acts as a molecular master switch. It physically remodels your neurons, turning down your brain's sensitivity to dopamine. This is called dopamine resistance. When you become dopamine resistant, your baseline levels of motivation and enthusiasm plummet. You require more and more intense stimulation just to feel normal or to achieve a basic level of concentration. This state of chronic dopamine deficit creates symptoms that are functionally indistinguishable from ADHD: inattention, impulsivity, and a craving for novelty. In 1937, a doctor named Charles Bradley observed this exact phenomenon. He was treating children from high-stress, abusive, poverty-stricken environments. Their brains, battered by the chronic stress of their home lives, had built up a resistance to dopamine. Bradley found that giving them benzodrine, an amphetamine that triggers a massive artificial dopamine flood, temporarily allowed them to focus. Today, we are replicating those high-stress conditions on a mass scale, inducing this exact state in neurotypical brains. But it isn't just the pinging of our phones creating this chronic stress and dopamine resistance. It is what is on our plates. For roughly 130,000 years, the human machine ran on a highly stable, deeply elegant metabolic engine. As far as our bodies were concerned, almost everything we ate was eventually broken down into glucose. When we consumed food, our blood glucose levels rose. In response, our pancreas released insulin, which acted as a key to unlock our cells and allow the glucose inside to be used for energy. Simultaneously, our gut released a hormone called CCK to register fat and protein, and our fat cells released leptin. Together, these hormones signaled our brain's calorie detector, the hypothalamus, to tell us we were full. It was a perfect, self-regulating feedback loop. We ate when we were hungry, and we stopped when we had enough. Then, we fundamentally hacked our own hardware. We flooded our environment with a substance that bypassed every single one of these evolutionary checkpoints. Fructose. Fructose is the molecule that makes food taste sweet. In nature, it was relatively rare, locked behind the high-fiber packaging of seasonal fruit. Today, it is the cornerstone of the industrialized diet. When you consume glucose, your cells process it through a regulated pathway. An enzyme called PFK1 acts as a traffic cop. When your cells have enough energy, PFK1 switches off the intake. Fructose, however, is a metabolic saboteur. When it enters the liver, it completely bypasses the PFK1 control mechanism. There is no off switch. It converts directly, rapidly, and relentlessly into circulating fatty acids and triglycerides. Because fructose does not trigger an insulin response, it also fails to trigger leptin or CCK. It is entirely invisible to your brain's appetite control center. You can consume a massive dose of fructose, and your brain will literally not register that you have eaten a single calorie. But how does this destroy your focus? This invisible flood of circulating fatty acids creates insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes. But more immediately, this metabolic chaos puts your body into a state of chemical panic. Research shows that ingesting fructose produces a massive spike in cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Cortisol is designed to save your life if you are running from a predator. It depresses your immune system and spikes your blood pressure to prepare you for a fight. And crucially, a cortisol spike forces a massive release of dopamine. Fructose actually generates the exact same stress and dopamine spike as an acute survival threat, but you are getting it while sitting at your desk eating a muffin. When you consume fructose multiple times a day, you are placing your brain in a chronic state of fight or flight. This relentless chemical stress, combined with the artificial dopamine surges, triggers the exact same neurological mechanism as illicit drugs. It builds up delta phos-B. It physically rewires your neurons, downregulates your dopamine receptors, and creates profound dopamine resistance. And to make matters worse, we are compounding this systemic inflammation by drowning our cells in industrial seed oils. Omega-6 fats, the dominant fat in processed vegetable oils like canola, soybean, and sunflower, have been shown to drastically alter hormonal profiles, lower testosterone and sperm counts, and contribute to the very metabolic dysregulation that leaves our systems fragile. Do you see the trap? Your diet is systematically starving your brain of its baseline motivation. By the time you open your laptop to do deep, meaningful work, your prefrontal cortex is chemically depleted. You lack the biological fuel required to concentrate. So, when your smartphone buzzes with a notification, your starved brain doesn't just look at it, it lunges for it, desperate for the cheap, engineered dopamine hit. It needs just to feel normal. We are blaming the software for a hardware collapse. In the mid-20th century, an influential researcher named Ancel Keys popularized the fat theory. He convinced the medical establishment and the public that dietary fat was the cause of heart disease and obesity. The message was relentlessly simple: fat makes you fat. The scientific community, including brilliant researchers like Dr. John Yudkin, warned that Keyes' data was flawed and that sugar, specifically fructose, was the actual driver of this metabolic disease. Yudkin proved that sugar raised triglycerides and uric acid and published a book calling it sweet and deadly. He was ignored, shouted down by a burgeoning industry that had found its golden ticket. When food manufacturers removed the fat from their products to meet the new dietary guidelines, the food tasted like cardboard. To make it palatable, they replaced the fat with sugar. Today, fructose is hiding in plain sight, masquerading beneath the halo of health. It is not just in the obvious culprits like soda and candy. It is the invisible sludge in your pantry. You wake up and pour yourself a bowl of healthy, high-fiber breakfast cereal, completely unaware that it is 26% sugar by weight. You have a glass of apple juice, believing it to be nutritious, when in reality you are drinking the fructose equivalent of 4 large apples, stripped of the fiber that would normally mitigate the damage. You dress your salad in low-fat dressing. You spread no added cane sugar yogurt on your child's breakfast. Yogurt that has simply replaced cane sugar with fruit juice extract, a linguistic sleight of hand that means pure fructose. Even your savory barbecue sauce is 55% sugar. We are subjecting our children to this chemical assault before they can even speak. We feed them a diet that spikes their blood sugar, floods their developing brains with cortisol, and forces their neural pathways into a state of severe dopamine resistance. They arrive at school with their cognitive hardware burning out, their impulse control shattered, and their ability to sustain focus entirely eroded. Then we act surprised when they cannot pay attention, and we prescribe them amphetamines to temporarily override the damage we fed them for breakfast. The food industry understands this perfectly. They know that by embedding fructose into everything, they bypass your satiety signals. You aren't lacking willpower when you overeat. You are functioning exactly as your hijacked biology dictates. We are fighting a war on two fronts, and we are losing because we have only recognized one of the enemies. You cannot treat a metabolic hardware problem with a software patch. You can delete TikTok, you can put your phone in a locked drawer, and you can attempt to meditate your way into a state of zen. But if your liver is currently converting hidden fructose into a flood of circulating fatty acids, if your cortisol is spiking, and if your brain's delta-phosB pathways have left your dopamine receptors deaf and starving, your focus will always collapse. You will remain a sitting duck for the attention economy. The diet of the modern world is actively destroying your attention span. The chemical inputs on your plate are rewiring your brain for addiction, creating the exact vulnerabilities that the behavioral inputs in your pocket are designed to exploit. If you want to reclaim your ability to think, to create, and to focus deeply, you must first reclaim your biology. You must stop poisoning your cognitive hardware. Breaking this cycle requires a ruthless, evidence-based strategy. You have to dismantle both the traps in your environment and the toxins in your diet. My latest book, The Attention Recovery Plan, is a clinical, step-by-step manual for doing exactly that. It details the science of the dopamine detox, the non-negotiable protocols for eliminating hidden fructose, and the exact methods for forging an unbreakable, highly resilient mind. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. It is your time, your productivity, and your life. It is time to stop handing it over to the food conglomerates and the algorithms. It is time to take it back.